Hey everyone, Astro Allen here to talk what else astrology. And real simply, just to point out that astrology shows up in everyday life, and if you know what to look for, you can see it everywhere. I'll just take the next couple minutes and I'm going to use the simplest example because it's so prevalent right now in current events, and that is that the Geminis love Geminis. Geminis just stick together. They have since the beginning of time. There's something about the duality of the Gemini that just finds solace and refuge in another Gemini. And so I'm going to show it to you in a few different examples, two big notable ones. The first one actually is more of a coincidence, I believe, than anything else. I just thought it was humorous. This is the cover to The Economist from last week. You can see you've got Trump and Boris Johnson, so the UK and the US, respective leaders here on the cover. No coincidence, they both happen to be Geminis. They represent the twins in a visual better than pretty much any magazine cover I could have expected. I don't believe The Economist did this deliberately, because I can't imagine that The Economist said, how do we depict the two Geminis that are running amok throughout the free world? But it just felt to be really appropriate. Also last week, wonderful, it's kind of like one of those once-in-a-lifetime examples. Once again, looking for Gemini energy sticking together with other Gemini energy. In the political space, of course, the impeachment hearings got underway and Trump was all the rage on Twitter, and he'd been communicating throughout the course of the weekend, and I had read that he had sent 130 messages over the course of a few days, which epitomizes Gemini energy. It loves communication, and it loves to throw ideas out, and just out of curiosity to see what comes back. Part of the reason that the Geminis so effortlessly connect with other Geminis is that it's not a critical energy, that they're just accepting of each other's ideas, regardless of what walk of life they happen to be in. In a professional capacity, Geminis love to associate, to surround themselves with other Geminis. It certainly happens in a romantic capacity as well. But what's beautiful about the current administration, and what was so perfectly depicted on the cold opening to the Saturday Night Live episode a week before last, was Trump gets on the phone to call all of his supporters to figure out how to navigate the current impeachment hearings. And so he ends up calling his personal lawyer, he calls the attorney general, he calls his vice president, he calls a random entertainer, and he calls his favorite TV talk show host. And these are just the personalities that Trump on Saturday Night Live ends up reaching out to. Once again, I don't believe Saturday Night Live is doing it deliberately. I don't think that their screenwriters are saying, hey, let's have Trump randomly call these people and let's just have them all be Geminis. I don't think that's anywhere in their consciousness, but it just so happens that Rudolph Giuliani, Attorney General William Barr, the Vice President Mike Pence, of course Kanye West, and then Judge Jeanine on Fox News, all five of them, Gemini, 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 Gemini. All right. The other couple characters that enter into the skit are his kids, or Kim Jong-un, or something random. But the ones that he actively calls on for support, the ones that he's actually friendly with in real life, and the ones that Saturday Night Live uses to depict his closest relationships, Trump being a raging Gemini himself, happen to be five other Geminis. And so if you were to ask, well, what's the statistical probability, and say, maybe this is just a random occurrence? Yes, it could just be a random occurrence, and life is full of all sorts of random occurrences. And of course, with a million things going on all the time, and headlines and events, there's always a possibility that you could just be cherry picking these random occurrences. But for Trump to just randomly call another Gemini, approximately it's about 1 in 12. It's not a normal distribution on birthdays. But just to assume that each sign has an average number of births, you would say it's 1 in 12. The probability of Trump calling on 5 Geminis, as depicted in that Saturday Night Live skit, and if I was good at editing, I would intersperse each of the different scenes and you see all the different characters in this video, but I do single takes and I haven't matured enough to actually make these into professional videos, so I'll just put the link below to that actual skit. But if you were to say, what's the random probability of him calling on 5 people for support and all 5 of them having to be Gemini, it would be 1 in 12 to the 5th power. So 1 in 12 times 1 in 12, 1 in 12, 1 in 12, 1 in 12. Is it possible that it's random? Absolutely. Would most of the world look at it as just simply random? Sure. But would people who understand astrology think differently? You bet. And would people who are actually minded, spiritually minded, and questioning kind of the greater existence and the purpose of this intention, why we're all here, and how the energies that we bring into this space relate to and connect with other people and the energies that they bring into this space, would they find it a little bit more curious than just some random happenstance? Well, can't speak for everybody, but I certainly do. All right, everyone, it's Astro Alan, just giving you a few minutes of my mind here as I wrap up another day at work.